Hey there everyone, hope everybody's having a good day. With Final Fantasy XVI coming out soon, at least in relation to this video, its predecessor started coming to my mind, the 2016 game Final Fantasy XV. Now, I actually greatly enjoyed Final Fantasy XV and sunk over 80 hours into the game. This fact may surprise you after what I'm about to say, because it did make me realize something that may be a little unpopular for a lot of people. But I have heard more and more people talking about this problem with a lot of RPGs. And that's that a lot of RPGs now have become too open world, too big for their britches. While there's many examples of this, I'm going to be using and focusing on Final Fantasy XV to showcase it. And I think it fits because the problem really started to rear its head back in 2009 with the onset of complaints that Final Fantasy XIII received for being way too linear. And I do see the point of validity of these complaints, but I believe an overcorrection has occurred. Now, what do I mean by too open world? First off, it's important to keep in mind that a big aspect of a lot of RPGs and JRPGs is the narrative and characters. For example, Final Fantasy XV boasted about its compelling story, lore, characters, and overall adventure before release. And while it partially delivered on some of these aspects, the large open world made the game feel disjointed, with the narrative taking a backseat to the open world and its many side quests. And same feeling side quests, I might add. And because of this, the story started to become a lot more confusing to follow. This focus for the game did not entirely feel like a purposeful decision on the part of the developers. Yes, they wanted a sandbox for players to explore and play around with, and to not get the same complaints they did with 13. But a side effect of that, and the world being, in my opinion, too large, or at least too open for the story to flow cohesively and have good pacing. The openness of the game, which I stated is distinctly different than just big. See, you can try to have a bigger world for your story, but the scope and main adventure of your narrative has to be able to fit in that world. And I don't mean fit like a kid in their dad's coat, but fit well. A world that is too open is one that gives too much space for the player, and results in the narrative getting lost in it. The narrative for these games seems to be something that drowns in the vastness of the game world. I think some constraints on the player is good. It gives the story that the developers are trying to tell some direction. It allows you to still explore and enjoy the world while not getting sidetracked enough that the main story just feels like a secondary aspect of the game. Now, the second aspect of openness in the world design is that the world can be all big and grand, but it has nothing to do in it. The world is all surface level and soon starts to feel too lifeless and too empty, like you're the only thing that exists in the world. And for me personally, that starts to take away from the immersion of the game and the world as a whole. A game that does the sandbox style open world areas very well, in my opinion, is the Yakuza franchise, which have smaller areas of free roam compared to the likes of Final Fantasy XV. In the Yakuza games, every few feet you walk leads to something new and new characters to interact with. That world feels lived in, alive, and real to an extent. And that's something I feel that these big open world games maybe need to bring down their scope and try to fit in more like that. Overall, I think we need to find a more middle ground than what gamers have been receiving. A middle ground of games that have areas to explore while still being tight enough for the narrative to flow smoothly. And I have hope that we may be moving in that direction. With that, I'm the Just History Guy. Like, subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you.